was 10 minutes to midnight by the time I reached Woodley. I was welcomed by darkness as I pushed the door and entered the house. It did not feel like anyone lived in this space. Grabbing my pajamas from the suitcase, I took a hot shower and allowed the weariness to rock me to sleep. Meanwhile, flanked by bodyguards, Joshua walked out of the Wilton Hotel, which was owned by his family. He had just closed a big deal with a major client and arranged for the client to stay in the presidential suite. With his new wife coming to mind, Joshua decided to take a trip home. "Sir, will it be the estate or the Hilltop Villa?" one of his guards inquired. The estate was the Shaw's family home, while the villa on the hill was a property belonging to Joshua. His permanent domicile was the villa, but he would catch up and have dinner with the family at the estate now and then. "To Woodley," Joshua replied. Joshua got into the Rolls-Royce and instructed in a husky voice. "Don't forget to bring the national car I bought." It was a facade to fool his new wife. "What is your wife called?" the driver asked Joshua. Joshua could not be bothered to dig out the marriage certificate. Oh, it was likely his mother didn't return it to him after he showed her. Anyhow, the marriage certificate was not with him. One of the guards told Joshua. "The young Mrs. Esther Can, she's 25 this year. You might want to remember that." Joshua had an exceptional memory, but when it came to people who he was not fond of, he jammed them out, and this was especially true with women. He probably would not know the lady's name even if they met every day. "Sure, got it," Joshua responded offhandedly. Judging by his tone, the bodyguard knew he would not bother to learn more about the miss. "Refusing to waste more brain cells on matters to do with me." Joshua slumped against the seat and rested his eyes. The journey from Wilton to Woodley took 15 minutes with the luxury sedan convoy stopped at the neighborhood gate. Joshua proceeded to drive the national car into the villa. Although he could not remember his bride's name, Joshua was not going to forget about the property he purchased. Soon, he arrived at the entrance to his home and took notice of a pair of familiar slippers at the door. They appeared to be his. Why were they thrown out? "It must be Esther," he mumbled to himself. Doing a slow burn, he scrunched up his chiseled face. He was grateful I saved his mother's life, but all that good impression was lost following his mother constantly praising me and nagging him to marry me. Now Joshua believed I was a conniving person, although he gave in to his mother to marry me. In the end, Joshua drew a line where he planned to keep his identity hidden after marriage to be the judge of my character, and if I passed the test, he would accept me as his wife forever. If he were to find out that I was a scheming woman, then I could get what was coming that only Joshua knew what it was. This is because no good ever came to those who played games with Joshua. Whipping out his keys, Joshua tried to unlock the door, but his attempt was futile. He was less than happy when he realized that I had locked him out. "This is my house. I let her in, and yet she locked me out." Furious, Joshua lifted his foot and kicked the door. Bang! I was startled awake by the kick on the door. Throwing off the duvet, I stormed out in my pajamas. "Who is it? Why are you knocking on my door when you should be asleep?" I opened the door as I ran my mouth at the guy standing outside. I was stumped the moment I got a good look at the person's face. I stared at Joshua's face for a while, before getting a hold of myself and putting on a smiling face. I embarrassed uttered, "Oh, it's you, Mr. Shaw." Joshua's rage was already on an all-time high because I had locked him out of his house. Brushing me off, Joshua walked past me and entered the house with a sour face. I strung my tongue out behind his back, and thought to myself, this is the after-effect of marrying at first sight. I popped my head out the door to look. It was a good thing the neighbors were not awakened by Joshua's vigorous slamming. Spotting the slippers by the door, I bent over to put them back inside the house before locking the door behind me. And then started explaining to Joshua why I locked him out. "I got home at midnight, and I thought you wouldn't be coming back since you weren't home by then. That's why I locked the door. I was alone at home, so I thought I should put your slippers at the door just to be safe. People will know there is a man in the house if they see a man's slippers, they wouldn't dare try anything." I was smiling as I explained to him why his slippers were outside. No bad guys scared me as I practiced self-defense. Nevertheless, it did not stop me from putting home safety measures into place. Sitting on the sofa, Joshua stared icily at me with a deadpan yet penetrating eyes. "I'm sorry, Mr. Shaw." I brought his slippers over and placed them by his feet while apologizing. It took a while before Joshua coldly blurted,
"I said not to mind me. But this is my home. I'm not happy that you locked me out."
"I'm sorry, Mr. Shaw, I'm very sorry." Next time I will call in advance to check if you are coming back. I will lock the door if you have no plans to return.
I will inform you when I'm going on business trips. I will be home every day unless I tell you otherwise. Don't call me. I'm a busy man. I don't have time to take your tiresome calls.
Oh, okay. Joshua could have the last say since this was his place anyway. He was the boss. Mr. Shaw, do you want any supper? Since Joshua worked until late, I thought he must be hungry. Hence, I asked out of kindness. His response was,
I don't have the habit of midnight snacking. It's fattening.
Joshua was careful to watch his weight, refusing to let himself become overweight, since it's hard to shed those extra kilos. I smiled and said, you are fit, Mr. Shaw. So I guess I will go back to bed.
Sure.
I wished him good night before turning on my heel to leave.
Hang on, Esther.
Pausing, I turned my head around and asked, yes.
Please, don't walk around with pajamas next time.
I was not wearing a bra underneath my pajamas. Unfortunately, his eyes picked up on that. We were husband and wife anyway, but he thought, what if he came with his friend and caught me in my pajamas? The last thing he wanted was for other men to see his wife's body. Red in the face, I bolted back to my room and slammed the door shut. Joshua was speechless. He took a moment to sit before heading to the master bedroom. He bought the furnished house at the last minute. It was move-in ready. Nevertheless, his bedroom had not been sorted out due to the rush. He was quite impressed that I knew how to take hints instead of brazenly demanding to sleep in the same room. Thank goodness, the fulfillment of marital obligations was not asked of him. The wee hours of the morning went by uneventfully for the married couple. The next day, I woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning as usual. Prior to this, I would make breakfast and tidy up the place. After I got up, if the time permitted, I would help my sister with laundry. I had taken the role of a nanny in the years I stayed at my sister's place, mainly because I was trying to lighten the load off my sister's shoulders. My brother-in-law took it for granted, and ordered me around like a nanny. I woke up and stared at unfamiliar bedroom that I spent the night in, as memories flooded back into my mind. I murmured, I must be half asleep to think I'm still at my sister's place. This is my home. I don't have to get up now. I laid back down to return to my dreamland. It was a shame that I could not adjust my body clock though. I could not sleep in even if I tried. So I decided to get up. After brushing my teeth and wiping my face, I changed my clothes, then walked out of my room, and took a glance at Joshua's bedroom door. By the look of the closed door, he must still be sleeping. Well, it was hard to get up at this hour since he was home late last night. I wandered into the kitchen and started at the empty room. A brief silence, later I turned around and made my way out. I placed an order for kitchenware yesterday, but the stuff had not arrived. Had I known, I would have bought them in a supermarket while I was moving into the house yesterday rather than online. I remembered seeing a breakfast place in the neighborhood. And so, I decided to get breakfast takeout. I wondered what Joshua liked eating, but it was like I could wake him up and ask. So I bought a variety. I got an omelette, bacon, sausage, pancake, and toast. The favorite of ordinary people. I was an early riser despite staying up the night before. No sooner had I gone out to get breakfast than he woke up. Unaccustomed to having a wife, he once again forgot about my existence and walked out of his room bare-chested to get a glass of water. Then I swung open the door to enter the house and our gazes met. The next thing, Joshua locked his arms against his chest and ran back to his room like I did last night. Dumbstruck at first, I busted into laughter. I muttered to myself, nothing is interesting about a man's upper body, it's nothing more than abs. I can't believe he put his arm over his chest, ha ha. That was so funny. A while later, Joshua re-emerged fully dressed in a suit. He did not look too pleased, but who was he to tell me off? It was his fault for forgetting that a strange woman was in his living space now. A strange woman was also a wife in the papers. Normally, Joshua stayed in his villa and would wake up to an empty house, and at times he would ditch his shirt when feeling cheeky. This was the case today, and I, being the scheming girl, saw his bare chest. Mr. Shaw, I got breakfast, come and have them. Despite laughing my heart off, I did not forget the agenda at hand. I placed the breakfast variety on the dining table and called the man who felt violated over. Joshua stood in silence for a bit, before heading over. He glanced at the breakfast and callously asked,
Do you know how to cook?
I do. I'm a good cook.
The store-bought breakfast, especially from the street stalls, is not very hygienic. You should cut down on that, and make your food since you can cook. It's sanitary and safe.
Thanks for watching.